I'm pleased now to be able to introduce the second member of the triumvirate that's made these annual Tahoe summits possible. John Ensign is a veterinarian by profession. He served as a member of the House of Representatives and since the year 2000 has been a member of the United States Senate. I was privileged to work with him in 1998 in authoring the Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act, which many of you know has been the funding source to provide much of the money that was committed nearly a decade ago. Please welcome Senator John Ensign, Nevada's junior senator.
Thank you, Senator Bryan. Mr. President, welcome back. It's great to have you here. 10 years ago, I was at that first summit and have been at everyone since. And the wonderful thing, and I have to give Senator Reid a lot of credit for having that vision to start these summits. They haven't been just a place for photo ops, although they are a pretty good photo op, we say. But they've actually been a place to come together and each year try to jumpstart what has happened. Sometimes things get kind of bogged down. And in the last few years, we have been talking a lot about what needs to be done. Senator Bryan mentioned that Senator Bryan, myself, were the original authors of the Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act with Senator Reid, Congressman Gibbons at the time. We all worked together as a delegation to get that legislation passed, and that really has been the place for the federal money to come into the lake to do a lot of the things that we've seen as far as environmental restoration. We're very proud of the legislation that has been done, but over the last several years, in worrying about water quality, we have not focused nearly enough with fuel reduction. And that is the problem, is we have to have this balance. Because if you think about what happened with the Angora fire, and talking to the chief of the Forest Service, Senator Reid and I had a meeting in his office with the chief of the Forest Service, and those riparian areas near the stream beds, they acted as a wick to draw the fire through. So in trying to preserve the water quality around the stream beds, we ended up with so much fuel in those areas that we spread the fire worse than it ever would have been. Well, we have a lot of those areas around, and in our protecting this lake, we have to look at the whole ecosystem. We can't just worry about erosion control, we must also worry about fire suppression. And fire suppression is not just about what the structures that we saw burned at the Angora fire. It's not just about all of the buildings that may be burned or humans that may be hurt. It's about forest health and looking at the entire ecosystem and not just at Lake Tahoe clarity. But I will tell you that a catastrophic fire in Lake Tahoe will reverse all of the progress that we have made over the last several years with fighting erosion control and all of the wonderful things that have been done up here at the lake. So we have to put in this future plan to make sure that fuel reduction is balanced with erosion control so that as we're going forward, we actually do protect what Mark Twain talked about, that cobalt blue color that Lake Tahoe is so famous for. Recently, the TRPA issued an emergency permit to do some fuel reduction in Slaughterhouse Canyon. I would submit that emergency designation, which the TRPA is allowed to do, that should be the rule over the next 10 years, not the exception. That's one of the ways we can get the bureaucracy out of the way. Senator Reid, Senator Feinstein, myself, with Secretary Kempthorne, as she mentioned, we were up at Glenbrook looking at some of the mitigation that can be done. And we've heard from a lot of different people about how the bureaucracy and all of these environmental laws that were put in place with very good intentions sometimes can have bad unintended consequences. We have to love this lake so much to get the bureaucracy out of the way. It is time to care about the lake so much that we're going to do whatever it is necessary because the funds are there. But if we put bureaucracy so much in the way that it costs so much money, we're not going to have the money to do the things that we know are necessary to save Lake Tahoe. So I think that we need to redouble our efforts. And as a Senate delegation, at least, between California and Nevada, we committed today to getting together with the Secretary of Interior and everybody else involved to figure out what kind of emergency designation we could put for Lake Tahoe and the whole Lake Tahoe Basin, so that we can make sure that the bureaucracy isn't what stops us from saving Lake Tahoe. That's our commitment to you. We feel very good about that. Lastly, Senator Reed and I and our new Congressman Heller, welcome. He's a great new member of our delegation. And in this last year, we worked very hard on something called the White Pine County Lands Bill. And in there came part of the legislation that we've worked out through these summits the last several years. And we're authorizing a lot more of the money, not only to be used by the Forest Service to do fuel reduction, but as Senator Feinstein talked about, these community fire plants. Right now, the local governments are not, and local entities, nonprofits, are not allowed to apply for money from the Southern Nevada Lands Act. Starting in round 8, all of these community fire plans are going to be eligible for the funding, and my commitment is, Senator Feinstein, you make sure you get the bureaucracy out of the way in California, and we'll get some of the Nevada area over there so we can protect our side of the lake by reducing fuel on your side of the lake. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's another historic day, having President Clinton back here again, and the way that this whole thing was kicked off. And let's just all redouble our efforts to make sure that this place that we all hold so dear in our hearts, that this treasure in the Sierras is preserved for generations to come, so it's not just there for us to enjoy today, but literally for decades and decades and centuries from now, that they will have as beautiful of a place to enjoy as you and I have had. God bless you. Thank you.